What's up, everybody? My name is Chris Hervochon. The website is betterwaycpa.com, and I am here with Heather Bragg of Bragg Media, a super talented marketer.
I'm glad you
And
said that.
yeah, well, absolutely. Well, she does my own marketing, so obviously a super talented marketer. But Heather, what's up? How are things?
Well, things are doing great. Yeah. Thanks for having me on your show.
I'm ecstatic to have you. So, just to tell everybody a little bit about your business, what you do, the clients you serve, all that good stuff.
Well, I own Bragg Media Marketing. We're a marketing agency we've been in business for about 13 years now. And we started out as a graphic design firm and grew into a full service marketing agency with specializing in digital content. Mainly, we're an inbound marketing agency.
So what does inbound marketing mean?
Inbound essentially means that you bring the customers or the audience to you, not the other way around. Outbound usually is characterized as paid advertising, pay-per-click ad campaigns. They're seen as more disruptive, pardon me. And inbound marketing is more about providing high quality content and helpful content that brings people to you, and lead segmentation and all that stuff.
All that stuff. Very
That's
cool.
that's my expert name for that.
Awesome. So fair to say outbound marketing is Facebook ads, AdWords, and then inbound marketing is blog posts, ebooks, things like that.
Exactly. Precisely.
Awesome. So tell us about the clients that you serve, and what does that space look like for you? What's your client size? What do they specialize in? Things like that.
When we first started talking about doing this YouTube live, I think we called it the growing up, how one marketing agency is making it work.
Uh-huh.
Well, I kind of feel like I'm still trying to figure that out, truth be told. Typically, we're small to medium-sized businesses, but in industry-wise, it runs the gamut. We work for a barbershop. We work for a CPA firm. we cover a variety of industries, but I still feel like we're growing up, which is why we're here today to talk.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, it sounds like there's some similarity here between my business and your business. So I serve business owners, you serve business owners. We're both in this B2B realm, right? And my business is growing up, your business is growing up, our clients' businesses are growing up. So I'm interested to hear what you think about what does growing up mean for your clients? Like so for instance, I talk about the 4 pillars of business strategy, right? And pillar number 1 is customer acquisition and sales. And that's very much what you do. That's your whole thing, right? Is to bring revenue to a business. So from your perspective as a marketing agency, what does that growing up process look like in the context of that first pillar?
You mean for marketing agencies or for my clients?
Both. Why not?
Okay, so for my clients, typically by the time they come to me, they've already been through a couple of different agencies, or they've been burned by an agency, or something has happened that has brought them to me. So I'm typically helping them establish baseline brand identity and brand messaging. And then from there, we implement ongoing marketing services. So for them, client acquisition and sales is usually, it depends on the industry and the type of business, but basically it's kind of helping them. We help them define who they are and to get to that point. And for my agency, that's a complicated question, and it's a complicated answer. But I started Bragg Media, like I said, as a graphic design firm, but mainly I created a job for myself and not a company. It was more of like a situation of being a survivalist situation. And I wanted to stay at home and be a work at home mom. And I didn't anticipate being anything else other than a graphic designer. And then of course I love what I do. And I love helping people, and I love technology. And so all of those things in my background in journalism as well all kind of came full circle. And that's how I grew my marketing agency. I'm not answering your question at all, am I? But I'm getting
You're getting there.
Yeah, but so for us, client acquisition and sales, um, through Google organic search, that's the ideal, that's marketing gold. But through networking and through lead generation through our website, people signing up for ebooks and signing up for our email series. We send them information that's automatically sent through HubSpot, and they get to know us a little bit, and then they come to us and they want to know a little bit more about us. So they kind of try us out by reading the free content online and then come to us. And that, I actually prefer that, because then they kind of get the idea of what it's like to work with Bragg Media. But it took us a long time to get there.
That's interesting. Like, do you find that your customer acquisition process, I mean, it's different, right? But a lot of the concepts are the same for a marketing agency as they are for, say, a CPA firm, as far as attracting new inbound clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I should preface this by saying too, that marketing agencies are their own worst clients. If you take a look at marketing agencies, it's very rare to see really good examples of marketing about their own agency. It's the cobbler's children concept, but absolutely, yes, it's lots of content generation, and blogs and ebooks and all that content. What that does is it builds authority and trust with your audience. And it tells people, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Or yes, it checks those boxes in one sense, but it also helps people understand how you can help them.
Interesting. So what kind of tactics do you employ, and what kind of tactics do you think are working best right now?
That's a good question too. Well, interestingly, we got a client through Google organic search who found us. So our SEO must be pretty decent. But he was telling me that the reason why he ended up picking up the phone to call me was because he saw some video I did on LinkedIn. And it was just me talking into my cell phone, talking about, just talking about building trust and how that's important in marketing and in business in general. Honestly, it's an old-fashioned notion. Put the customer first. And we employ the HubSpot flywheel model, where the customer's first, in the middle, and then the flywheel keeps going by attracting, engaging, and delighting that customer. And it's not just through our marketing, it's also through how we do business.
Interesting. So that's interesting that you mentioned that. So can you kind of explain the flywheel a little bit more?
Yeah. So before, it was the funnel, the sales funnel that everyone talked about,
right,
and the different phases of putting the client through your process. And that therein lies the problem. It's your process, and it's all centered around your business. And what happens is that what's gotten lost is the customer. So the flywheel model puts the customer at the center. So everything that you're doing, attracting, engaging, and delighting, is all about the customer and keeping them happy. And that could be as simple as having a website that runs fast and is on a really good server, so that the customer user experience isn't interrupted by a 404 error or something like that. This is my worst nightmare. But also the way you communicate with your customer, keeping them in the loop about projects, or having a client portal, which is what your website has, where people can access their information, upload files, everything's all in one place. All of that is part of that customer experience. And in a way, people lose sight of what that marketing plays an important role in that. It's just as important as any other part of business operations.
Interesting. So, I mean, just from dealing with me, that one of the things, or two of the things that I focus on a lot in advising clients, are hard trends and soft trends. So hard trends are things that are absolutely going to happen in the future. Soft trends are things that might happen. So within the context of marketing tactics, what are some of the hard trends and then soft trends that you're seeing? So what are some of the what's the new, I'm always interested in the new stuff. What's the new stuff that's coming down the pike? Maybe that marketing agencies are looking to implement now, which, basically just building a better mousetrap, or that they might be looking at in the future.
We just wrote a blog about personalization. That's huge. That's here and now. So Yeah, and it's not just a matter of putting the merge tag first name thing in MailChimp in the subject line. Hey, check out this latest newsletter. It's not
Right.
just about that. It's the algorithm for like that Amazon uses recommended items, and it's not just a trend. People are expecting it as part of their buyer's experience now. And the other trend I would say that is here and now are messaging and marketing. So the social media, Facebook Messenger app, for instance, live chats. HubSpot offers a free chatbot if you sign up for their CRM. And when you implement that on your website, it could be a live chat or you could do an automated chat, like something that sets appointments for you.
Hmm.
Those are the biggest things right now that are trending. But and there are some things that are just traditional and that I would say aren't really trends, but they're just necessities. Like don't lose sight of public relations, press releases to the local media, and communicating company news with local magazines and newspapers in your community. Social media is always, it's part of our world now. It's the way we communicate. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, all of that is really important. E-newsletters, believe it or not, still a thing. People still expect them. But the key, though, is not to annoy people, to implement personalization, make it a part of your process in terms of communicating with your clients and potential clients.
So personalization is interesting to me. I was at an accounting conference 2 months ago now, and I took a marketing class. And one of the things that the presenter talked about was personalization and hyper personalization and how necessary that's going to be going forward. So it's interesting to hear you mention that. I'm interested to hear what are some of the technologies or tools that are being used to implement that. What's interesting that's out there right now?
Oh, that's a good question. um, well, HubSpot. We're HubSpot agency partners, so I probably sound like a giant sales machine. But HubSpot, just being able to segment. This is so basic, but being able to segment your contacts into like clients or maybe networking or people who are interested in just the finance strategy of your business or just the accounting aspect, and then sending them information that they want. It's that simple. I mean, I think every small business should be doing that. But I mean, there are other things too, obviously, with Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising, choosing the demographics and your target market audience, that plays a huge role as well. But again, we tend to focus on the inbound marketing aspects. So with email, it's the segmented audiences. It's setting up, automated workflows that automatically nurture leads and send people information that they want to hear. And if you think about it, it's so basic. It's basically you're giving people what they want. They're telling you what they want and you're giving it to them. And why not?
Novel concept.
Yeah, exactly.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So shift gears just a little bit from running an agency from that perspective. What are some of the common problems that you're seeing among agency owners now that they're trying to solve for? So like what keeps them up at night?
Well, the first thing I had already mentioned that agencies have a difficult time doing their own marketing. And that's a variety of reasons that come into play. But for me, over the years, and you helped me with this is showing, like, proving our agency's worth to our clients, how to communicate our value to our clients. That's a constant struggle. I think a lot of, especially small agencies, we're a 2-person machine with some subcontractors. So that has been a challenge over the years. And so one of the ways that you helped us was having us use T-sheets that connects to our QuickBooks. That was an eye-opener, and a sad eye-opener in some ways, because it showed us how inefficient we were being, and it showed us how efficient in other ways we were being. So we've actually been able to use that data and that information to help grow our business and to become more profitable. But not invoicing consistently, in terms of cash flow bottlenecks. But mainly for us, this is going to sound silly, but with the T-sheets, what that did for me psychologically was prove to myself that, you know, my time is really valuable. I'm a people pleaser, so I will go the extra mile, and I will work myself to the bone just to make someone happy. And by employing T-sheets and saying, wait, you know, it's time to set some boundaries here, that's helped me psychologically with that.
So is it fair to summarize that a lot of what agencies face is bringing in that incremental dollar of revenue, the back office stuff, you know, the admin type stuff, and then number three, getting value out of what you're providing. In other words, you know, exchanging revenue for the service that you're providing.
Yeah, I mean, what we do is so creative, and honestly, I have fun. Like, and I'm always learning something new, and I need to say something about that really quick. But it's funny how people expect me to automatically know how to integrate MailChimp with HubSpot, or automatically do this or do that. I mean, there's so many nuances to the technology today and how it communicates with each other that it takes a minute for us to figure some things out sometimes. But to get back to your question, it's proving that being so creative, it's sometimes hard to put a monetary value to. And the way to do that with an agency like ours is through time and through T-sheets and or some sort of time tracking app. That's worked wonders for us. And it's over the years, it was really hard to communicate with people. No, this is how much this costs, and this is why, and to set up a process to get that to work. And then to communicate that with people in a way that doesn't sound cumbersome or confusing can be challenging as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that needs to happen, especially for marketing agencies, is for them to get access to the data that allows them to calculate the value that they created. So in other words, you know, have it in your agreement when you bring on a new client, hey, we need to see some sort of a revenue report which ties back to the service that we provided, so we can show you exactly what value that we drove. And then you can kind of, you know, you start to understand, well, you know, we did this for this client, it drove this much value. On the next client, when we do something similar to that, it's probably going to drive this much value, and so we need to price ourselves at X to get the most value, right? Because at the end of the day, you've got to get an ROI, and then your client needs to get an ROI too. So everybody's getting ROI. You just need to make sure that you're getting the right ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why marketing and sales on the scale of trust, they rank there with lobbyists and lawyers, and it's just a thing. They do. Well, but there's a reason why, and part of it is because agencies have trouble communicating their value and interpreting the numbers in a way that aren't inflated, that are truthful, and then to come up with a plan of attack for how to solve marketing bottlenecks, or if ROI isn't what they expected, how to handle that. One of the things that you and I are working on, hopefully soon, are marketing dashboards. So I'm working on implementing client portals for my website now, so all my clients can access an account where they can find invoices and proposals, you know, updates about projects, timelines, and of course, marketing. So they can see like their web traffic, or they can see the click-through rates of an email campaign. But eventually, I'd like to tie all that into, what does that look like numbers-wise, dollar-wise? Like, how much was that email campaign? It cost this much, but how much was the return in that? I would love to get to that point. But one of the things that I think might be hindering me, or hindering marketing in general, is that low trust factor, and clients aren't that willing to give the revenue and the revenue information and give access to their financial stuff. So,
well, it's new, right? I mean, that's not something that clients are used to doing, and they haven't done it before. But that's where we are in the analytics age. And to that point, about 10 minutes ago, you said that you got started because you wanted to create a job for yourself as a graphic designer, basically. So did you ever imagine that you would have to turn yourself into a data analyst?
Yes and no. I'm not surprised, because I mean, I have a very right brain creative way of looking at things, but I also, my dad and my brother, brothers in a way, are very left brain, and so I come from this analytic family. So I'm not surprised that I'm crunching numbers or looking at data and trying to make sense of it. Um, I'm a former journalist, so I was a reporter for several years, and an editor and graphic designer, designing pages for newspapers and special sections and stuff like that. But when I was really little, we were the family in the neighborhood that had the latest technology because my dad is a computer junkie. So we were, clunking away on Commodore 64s and waiting for 30 minutes for the hangman tape to load and like typing in the code on the back of those computer engineering magazines to play little games. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. I just wish I knew what it meant. No, I'm just joking. That's where you come in.
Yeah, fair enough. So what else around around data analytics do you think is interesting for marketing agencies now? Where do you see it ultimately going?
Well, in your blog, which I was proofreading earlier today, I liked the quote that you said that data is the new currency, and I absolutely agree with that. I think the more information we have, we can predict patterns and trends and behaviors and things like that. But it all kind of comes back to personalization. We want to give people what they want in terms of marketing and in terms of anything. We want to help them. Every company, there's a problem, that company's the solution for whatever that problem is. So when you look at it like that, that data is the connecting bridge.
So I think historically, the data aspect of marketing has been focused more toward outbound. So I think historically, right, with the advent of Facebook ads, AdWords, things like that, those are all very data-driven endeavors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think data applies to inbound?
Well, signing up for an ebook. You're gathering people's information, and you could have drop downs that said, which best describes me? I'm the CEO of a big company, or I'm this or that. That's one way to collect that data. By also seeing what pages people are interested in. So I have a workflow that if people visit certain pages so many times, or certain types of pages so many times on my website, they receive an email that says, hey, you might like this ebook. And which hopefully isn't too annoying, if it isn't. But yeah, behaviors, interests, age, and your background, all of that stuff plays a key role in the things that you're likely to buy and the things that you're likely to do.
Is it fair to say the same data that applies to outbound also applies to inbound?
In some ways, yeah. But the concern with outbound, like when you look at a pay-per-click ad campaign or the Google ads, I don't know if you've ever noticed, like in recent years, it's changed. It used to be on the right side, and now it's on the top. Well, the reason why Google did that is because there's this perceived bias. So people aren't, they were ignoring that right sidebar. Now they're forced to see those ads, but yet people are still hesitant to click on them because, one, they know that they're going to be monitored. They know that they've just entered in willingly into a realm of tracking their data. And two, they're probably going to get spammed to death with emails if they enter their email into anything. So I'm really not saying too many nice things about what I do, but but anyway, but yeah. So my thinking around advertising, especially pay-per-click advertising, is that you're competing for eyeballs and not actual leads. With inbound marketing, you're getting people to your website, or you're getting people to your social media, and you're giving them what they want. You're feeling them out, and you're pre-qualifying those leads. Like when I work with my husband, it's when Mike and I were first redesigning our website and started to rebuild the way that we were doing our business. we put ourselves through our own client process. So we asked ourselves, our business goals and all that stuff. And then we talked about the typical people that we get phone calls from. And the biggest group of people we get phone calls from are DIY marketers. So at first we were like, yeah, we don't really want them because they don't want to, obviously they don't want to pay us money. They want to do it themselves. But then I thought, why not write to them? Why not give them free information to let them help themselves? And when they're ready, they'll probably come to us for marketing advice. So we have a whole section for DIY marketers on our website. And we offer ebooks and how-tos, and we tell people how we do things. We lay it all out there. It's full transparency. And that's helped reduce our time in meetings and miles to drive to meetings and prospect clients who just quite frankly aren't good fits. And so inbound marketing can do that for you. I think I roundabout answered your question.
I think you did, but I think what you just laid out is probably consistent, not just for marketers, but any service-based business, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be this. It's going to be, the advice is going to be the same, right? There's going to be DIYers in any space that you operate in. There's DIYers in the accounting space. There's DIYers in the marketing space. There's DIYers now in the legal space, right? I mean, it's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who come to me and say, hey, can you open an LLC for me? And I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not a lawyer. And they'll go do it themselves. I don't recommend that. You should go see a qualified lawyer, but there's DIYers in the legal space too. They're everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's interesting that what you laid out is consistent, across a lot of different industries, not just in marketing.
Yeah. And it's, in some areas, inbound marketing's been around forever, but in some areas, it's taking a little bit longer to catch on. But once it does, what it's done for us, we heavily invested in inbound marketing this year, and it's totally changed the way that we do business. We're spending less time spinning our wheels and more time actually performing tasks that result in money and result in like a good foundation for our business. And inbound marketing is a part of that. It's basically, like I said, pre-qualifying leads and like finding the right audience. I'm not saying that there isn't like a place for advertising or there isn't a place for pay-per-click ad campaigns. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if you don't have a strong organic marketing foundation, why bother? What's the point? If you're going to have a pay-per-click ad campaign or a Facebook ad, but you don't have the website that communicates what you do very well, then what's the point? You're basically just competing for eyeballs and clicks and not actual results.
So basically close the entire loop, not just some sort of, really like a facade almost, really. A marketing facade is what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, you've got ads out there, but once you click on the ad and click the link, it takes you pretty much nowhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it has to be like with outbound works if it's integrated with an inbound strategy. That's our philosophy.
So you mentioned a couple minutes ago about marketing dashboards.
Yes. There's this little tiny fly that's going around my eye.
Well, it's summertime in the South. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So marketing dashboards, where do you see that going? What type of information do you think is helpful in a marketing dashboard? Talk to me about that.
Attribution is huge. Being able to tell a client, okay, this is how much money you spent on this Facebook ad campaign, especially if it's a client that's e-commerce, and then saying with that money you sold 50 units or whatever, worth double that or under that, whatever. That's where I want to get. But that's kind of hard to do with some of this data. And also too, like, depending on the website and how that's set up, there are so many variables that kind of get in the way. But being able to basically say this email had a 19% click-through rate, and of those so many people that clicked through, you received such and such in revenue. or such and such and the number of leads, the form fill outs, anything that can actually be some sort of a tangible marketing result. And sometimes that's hard to do, especially, and you love this word, especially when you're factoring in brand awareness and brand identity messaging, all those things. There isn't always a monetary value or a tangible thing from it. It may be like likes and follows and shares on a post, sure, but when it comes to brand awareness, there really isn't a whole lot of data that you can extrapolate from that.
So for people who are watching this video, they should know that was some sarcasm, because you know that I hate brand awareness for those exact reasons, because you can't measure it. And being an accountant, I like things that you can measure. And I like to measure the effect of things like brand awareness, and the fact that I can't drives me absolutely nuts.
Yeah. Well, in a way, it drives me nuts, because I don't like it. Like I want you to be happy. You're my client, so I want you to be happy, and that's a ROI for me. So that it's hard. It can be tricky sometimes.
Right. And when we get back to talking about, how you communicate your value to your clients, how you communicate marketing value to clients, I would imagine that the trickiest piece of that is brand awareness, because you have to have, some of your effort has to be brand awareness. And some of it has to be some sort of a response or some sort of a data gathering, some sort of resulting in a meeting or a phone call or something, right? But there is some piece of your marketing that doesn't, and that's the brand awareness, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to this is what I'm working on right now. I tend to over communicate with my clients. I probably annoy the hell out of them, pardon me. But my marketing reports, I always talk about the actions that were performed that month, what the objectives were. And then I talk about, like if it's an email, what the click-through rate was, or what and if it was abysmal, I let them know and I say, this is what we're going to do about this. And we come up with an action plan. And I send them social media reports that talks about impressions and the number of likes and the most popular posts. Well, all of that data does help us become better at what we do and just tweak and refine things within their own marketing, so that we're constantly trying to do better. So, that's one way that we do it. But like I said, I want to get to a point where we're literally communicating a marketing action and what that means revenue-wise. So.
Interesting. So marketing data.
And I'm doing that right now, and for some clients, I am doing that right now for some clients. But like I said, it's different for every industry. Sorry.
No worries. But if you're going to put together a marketing dashboard of all these metrics, right? So how much of it should be dedicated to branding and brand awareness, and how much of it should be dedicated to that direct response type thing that you can track that actually does turn into revenue? And talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, it should definitely lead with the information that the client wants to receive. So if you have the information, well, this is how much you spent on marketing, and this is how much money you brought in this month, that lead with that, and then break it down. With brand awareness, the impressions, the overall, like the number of comments, number of engagements on social media are a good way to gauge that. And the number of times if you have forms on your website, how many of those forms are being filled out, and then how many of those are leading to become customers? Well, that's where the client needs to communicate with the agency, but basically that's what we do. But we work with a lot of smaller businesses. For bigger companies and bigger brands, that's a different story.
Right. So there does need to be some sort of a two-way communication between the client and yourself, or their agency that says, hey, this is what this resulted in, because you do need to get that data from somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, that's why it helps when you have a holistic point of view and marketing works with sales and accounting, if they can all just work together and as a happy family. But that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, the data's got to come from everywhere, right? It's not just one stakeholder, it's multiple stakeholders, and all of those different data points need to be working together to communicate that picture and the results of those efforts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something, full disclosure, it's something that my agency has struggled with for a while, to try to communicate that in a way, well, that's palatable for the client, which is why we're working on the dashboards. But, and also, just that it makes sense, and to show that, hey, you're hiring us for a reason. But we also meet with most of our clients once a month, if it's just by a video conference or in person, depending on the level of commitment they have with us. So we don't keep marketing stagnant. I look at marketing as this campaign could be better. Everything can always be better. So every month we talk to our clients and we find it out. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat.
That's a novel concept, right? Actually talking to your clients.
Yes, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I think there's just so much value for both you and the client when you actually, the royal you, when you talk to the client. I see that even in my business. There's a lot of value that's created just by once a month meeting, even if it's over video conference or coffee or whatever it is, just to get on the same page, talk about where you've been, where you're going, and to make sure that you're always kind of keeping, that future focus in mind. I think it's extremely valuable. And I think it almost feels like from a societal perspective, and a customer service societal perspective, that we've gotten away from that. And it seems like that's kind of coming back around.
Yeah, that's why I think that's what attracted me to inbound marketing. Because it's that old fashioned notion that the customer's first. You put the customer first, and it has to be a relationship that's mutually beneficial. That's what every good business relationship is like. And yeah, it makes sense to me, and it really spoke to me. I think what changed our agency, I went to the HubSpot conference. I'm going to sound like I joined Scientology or something, but last year I went to my first.
No offense to any Scientologists who are watching this video.
Sorry. Hashtag Leah Remini. Anyway.
All right, we've gone off the rails. You went to a conference.
Okay. So yeah, so what changed things for me, I went to this conference, the HubSpot conference last year, and it was so inspiring. There were some huge names there. Shonda Rhimes, when she spoke, and just listening to her talk, and just how she's not really after the almighty dollar. She's after the challenge. She's after the craft and being creative. That really spoke to me, because that's really, at the end of the day, that's what motivates me, as being creative. I love to learn new things, and I love to help people. And I love being creative. I love graphic design. I love writing, all those things. And when you marry the things that mean the most to you and that you're passionate about, you're going to have a successful business. But
for sure.
Yeah. And just having a partner, like a resource like HubSpot, it could be anything, has helped our agency big time. I decided, I spent so much time exercising my energy and efforts and money into other people and other endeavors, that I thought, why am I not doing this for myself? And so that just switching that mentality changed everything for our business.
Awesome. Back to dashboarding, because I'm really kind of curious, but are there any tools out there right now that you think are interesting from an agency perspective, as far as being able to deliver those dashboards to your clients?
Yeah, I'm actually, honestly, I'm still looking into that. But what I skipped over a huge part with dashboarding, but setting up the KPIs and your marketing goals is very, very important. I mean, that's how the dashboards should be set up. You did this for us with showing us by client who's the most profitable, who's not. And that's determined by the number of hours spent, the number of resources and stuff like that spent. But in terms of the technology, I can tell you what I like. Obviously, I like HubSpot. Their dashboards are amazeballs. But I also like Sprout Social for social media for those who can't afford HubSpot. It offers some great analytics, and it connects very easily with Google Analytics, and it also connects with your Facebook ad manager and business account. I'm considering doing the Adobe marketing dashboards. I haven't made up my mind yet. That's the way I want to go or not. but I'm looking into that because we love the Adobe Creative Suite, of course. But yeah, I should be asking you this question, actually.
I love Power BI, Microsoft Power BI. I think it's the best in class dashboard tool that there is, mostly due to the number of connectors that you can bring into it natively, and then also just its ability, almost as an open source platform, to bring in custom connectors. So a good example. So one thing that exists in Power BI is the ability to bring in QuickBooks data. So most of my clients are on QuickBooks Online. Actually, all of my clients are on QuickBooks Online. But if you were to go and poll most CPA firms, they would tell you that most of their clients are on QuickBooks Online. It's just a numbers function. There's several 100,000 zero users in the US. There's millions of QuickBooks Online users. Just, the statistics would say most people are tracking their finances on QuickBooks Online, most small businesses. And small businesses meaning, probably 10, 20 million in revenue and less. Okay. So in Power BI, there is a QuickBooks connector. You can bring in data, but it's a standardized template. So you can only bring it in one format. It's going to show you the same metrics for every client. You can't customize it. It is what it is. So in Power BI, there are different ways that you can build out your own connectors or your own way to connect data, which is what I did for your dashboard. So I can pull in whatever data I want from your QuickBooks Online instance, and that's how I get to those revenue numbers that you're talking about. So profitability by industry, profitability by client, all of those things, that's all custom, and Power BI will allow you to do that. The question that I would have when I'm looking at any other sort of platform would be, if I find a data source that's not currently supported, can I bring it in via an API, or can I bring it in via something as simple as an Excel connector? And am I able to update that in real time without me having to go in and click refresh? And can I deploy that to my client online so that they don't have to wait for me to update their dashboard and things like that?
Yeah, and this is a really interesting conversation to have because all of this technology is emerging. So it's all unfolding right now as we were talking. Yep. But, this is where I get kind of hung up because HubSpot, sorry, I sound like a commercial.
Yeah, you turned into a commercial.
I know, I'm sorry. But HubSpot does offer these dashboards that do everything you just said, except for, I'm not sure if they connect with QuickBooks or not, but I was looking into Microsoft BI, and we use Mac, so we can't find something that works with that. But there are phone apps that you can use too. And I thought, maybe. But so I'm kind of exploring. And if you Google marketing dashboards, there are a variety of services that you can pay $50 a month or however that pull in all the data that you want. But I noticed that each service has different types of data that they pull in. It's not like an all-in-one encompassing thing. So you have to go to the right one for your industry. So, and that, that's one of our growing pains is the amount of subscriptions and accounts that we have for digital marketing. We're spending close to $2,000. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but we're spending a lot of money a month on various digital marketing things for clients and for ourselves. Well, I don't want to add on yet another thing. So I'm really looking into the cost efficiency aspect of marketing dashboards for me as an agency, and that's been a challenge.
Right. I think there's a couple things in there which are interesting that you brought up, but depending on your agency and depending on the clients that you service and how you service them, you're going to have some sort of set number of tools. So, you're going to use Google Analytics, you're going to use HubSpot, you're going to use, Facebook ads, whatever it is, and you're going to have your set of tools, and you're probably going to deploy the same set of tools to all of your clients. So you're niching your tool set, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, you need to make sure that your tool set is supported by your dashboarding software. So that's one piece. And then the other piece is, we've talked almost ad nauseum on this video about communicating value and how there's a revenue component to that. So a huge piece is you need to be able to pull those revenue dollars into the dashboard somehow, and making sure that whatever dashboard software that you choose has to have the ability to pull in revenue, whether it's via API direct connection to QuickBooks, direct connection to Xero, Excel, somehow, some way, there's got to be that revenue component has to be able to get into that dashboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's where marketing agencies are failing, quite frankly. They're not doing that, or they're giving what they think could be the attribution for a campaign. They don't really know, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, attribution's hard. I think it's basically about identifying a methodology and knowing that it's probably not going to be right, and then just kind of sticking with it and being consistent as far as how you apply that methodology. But I've probably listened to 100 podcasts on attribution, and nobody seems to have the answer, which is great. It's crazy when you think about it. You're spending tons of ad dollars, on these funnels and these flywheels and stuff like that, and trying to attribute the dollars when you've got all of these disaggregated sources of where your traffic is coming from, and where your revenue is coming from, where your clients are coming from, and nobody's got a good way to pull those together and really quantify it with hard numbers. It's really kind of an interesting thing that's going on in the marketing space right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that marketing needs to catch up with that, because that's, talk about competing with other agencies and talk about surviving. That's where that comes in. And you have to be able to communicate that, or it's just not gonna, your clients aren't gonna want to pay for that. They're not going to want to pay $5,000 a month for marketing that they don't know if it's working, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's a black box, and nobody knows where nobody knows what it means, or where the revenue is coming from, or crazy. And as a business owner, you shouldn't, right? I mean, you should, if you have no idea, if you're going to spend a lot of your resources on some sort of an action that you're taking for your business to make your business better, you don't want to spend it on something that you've got no idea. You have no idea how or if it's going to benefit you. It's a scary thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we do the things, we concentrate on inbound and concentrate on that organic relationship with your customer or your potential customer base. Because that's, if you think about it, word of mouth is the ultimate form of marketing. Well, inbound marketing facilitates that.
That's awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Talking about everything from communicating your value to dashboards to, just some of the challenges that agencies face. Anything else you want to talk about today?
Well, not to sound like a commercial for you, but you've really helped our business a lot. And no, he did not pay me to say this. But in addition to T-sheets, you helped us see where, like, you compared us to other agencies in our industry. So when I first went into the Wayfinder with you, I was really embarrassed and really nervous, because I thought, oh my gosh, we're not doing very well at all. We suck. We're terrible. That's what I thought. And then actually left feeling a little bit better after you analyzed our situation and you said, actually, you're doing pretty good. You just need to do this, this, and that, and maybe look into this. And that, just having that guidance was very helpful, because as a right brain person, I'm very creative, but being analytical about your own business can be really tough. And so having that third party perspective is really important. And just, we were always compliant, I think. I mean, when I first decided to start venturing out on my own as a freelancer, I called up the first accountant I saw on the Yellow Pages, because this was back when the Yellow Pages was a thing. And
awesome.
And I said, I have no idea. I've never done my own taxes. My dad's done them, or my husband. And I'm like, I'm not even going to bother. So you're going to do them. And that's how that relationship pretty much started. And I just listened to what they said and took notes and asked questions. And over the years, I've really learned, and I built up my business acumen. But by surrounding myself with people like you and people who are professional and have that expertise to help me grow.
So you mentioned a couple of interesting things in there, apart from the super kind words about my business. But You talked about T-sheets. So for other marketers, maybe who are watching this video who don't know what T-sheets is, can you kind of describe what it is and how you use it, and kind of maybe the benefit that you're getting out of it?
Yeah, well, we use T-sheets as our time tracking software. So whenever I get on my computer and I start, even if I'm just checking emails for myself, okay, I'm not doing that, but I should. I click on, Bragg Media Marketing as a customer, click the appropriate, if it's email, consultation, sales, prospecting, whatever the case is. And I quickly type out like a little brief description of what I'm doing. And basically what that does is it tells me how I'm spending my time, and what's most profitable, what's not, in terms with clients. So with our clients, we have an accurate description of events that have taken place for them behind the scenes. And we can also see like, okay, well, doing that email with all those animated GIFs and custom graphic design may have looked nice, but it didn't really result in a whole lot of marketing ROI. So what was the point of spending all that time on that? So that's what T-sheets does for us. And then I do my own invoicing. So, well, we do. And so we can track, I use the T-sheets to figure out how to invoice our clients. So, and I detail that, in the QuickBooks. This is why I have you.
Yes.
I can't
so
talk
one more way to be analytical about your business. Tracking what's working in your business, what's not working. And teaser for another video that is coming soon, but it's also for marketing agencies in particular. It's also going to help inform how to take advantage of the R&D tax credit. So whenever you hear tax credit, you should hear free dollars in your pocket. So forthcoming.
Great.
All right, Heather, this has been a lot of fun. Where can people find you, online or otherwise?
Well, you can find us at braggmedia.com. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. So braggmedia.com. Thanks for
pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Us, the royal us.
Yeah, the royal us. Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.